Nigerian lawyers have joined the demand for state governors to grant financial autonomy to the judiciary, the judicial arm of government, I should say. Lawyers protested at the National Assembly to support judiciary workers who are currently on strike. Rise correspondent Punariman Faintola reports.
Members of the Nigerian Bar Association, they are protesting against the failure of state governors to ensure the financial independence of the judiciary. This protest was triggered by the ongoing strike of the Judiciary Staff Union of Nigeria to demand compliance with constitutional provisions. 14 days now, the judiciary staff have not been working. Now, members of the Nigerian Bar Association say the demand is constitutional and governors should obey the law.
We are sending to the governors of all the states in Nigeria, particularly the governors who are lawyers, that you have no right whatsoever to negotiate the provisions of the Constitution. The only right you have, which is also in accordance with the oath of office they took, is to obey the provisions of the Constitution, particularly on this issue, Section 121, Section 3, which says that all the money standing to the credit of the judiciary must be paid to the heads of courts.
Some lawyers spoke on the effects of the strike.
We're concerned that people are locked up in the various detention facilities without being given the opportunity to be heard in court. We are concerned that citizens don't get the opportunity to resolve their disputes through the instrument of the law as recognized by the Constitution. But at the same time, this is an issue that has eaten up the judiciary for years. The judiciary cannot continue to be like a puppet in the hands of the executive.
But I think the thing there, they want to have control over the judiciary, and it's harmful to our democracy. Very harmful. We have seen a plethora of strange decisions of the courts, and we ask questions. Why would a judge give a decision of this nature? What do you expect? What do you expect when the governors have control over the judiciary in their various states? And we're saying enough is enough. For as a lawyer, I want justice for my client, and so would every other lawyer want justice for his client.
The executive is an arm of government. It has judicial, financial autonomy. It pays itself. The National Assembly or the legislature is an arm of government. It has financial autonomy. It pays itself. The executive doesn't pay the legislature. So it's only the judiciary, and the world over, the judicial arm of government must enjoy financial autonomy. Otherwise, there will be no freedom and independence of the judiciary, because he who pays the pipers must dictate the tones.
The lawyers wanted the National Assembly to intervene in the face of and prevail on governors to respect the Constitution as promised in their oath of office. Punariman Faintola, Arise News.
Artundu?
We don't have a lot of time to discuss this, but the NBA issued a directive for all its state chapters to go visit, is the word they use, the state governors on Monday and every subsequent Monday until their demands are met. And it actually speaks volumes that it has come to this. You'll recall a couple of weeks ago, the NBA was saying, now is not the time for a protest. There's such a huge backlog because of the COVID-19 lockdowns. Let's come to the table. It goes to show that all the NBA's efforts to intervene failed. And this is what it has come to. And the governors should really be embarrassed by this kind of display. Just obey the Constitution. We're all enjoying it.
Why is it that hard?
I don't understand it. It's called the doctrine of separation of powers. This is supposed to be a democracy. I don't understand why it's difficult.
Dr. Abati?
Okay, a number of quick points. This issue has been on the table since 2014, when the federal government of Nigeria signed a memorandum of understanding with the Judicial Union, Staff Union of Judicial Staff Union of Nigeria, JUSON. In 2015, JUSON went on strike because that memorandum of understanding was not respected. Subsequently, JUSON went to court, JUSON versus FGN. Two cases from JUSON. There was also another case, Agbakoba versus AGF, that's the Attorney General of the Federation, NJC, and another. And in all of those cases, the courts of Nigeria, all the way to the Supreme Court, upheld the provisions of Section 81, subsection 3, and Section 121, subsection 3 of the 1999 Constitution, which both recognize and endorse the financial autonomy of the judiciary in Nigeria. The major obstacle in the line of the realization of that objective has been the governors of the various states of Nigeria who have refused to recognize, accept, effectuate financial autonomy for both the legislature and also the judiciary in the states. And as one of the gentlemen that was interviewed in that video pointed out, this is an assault on a democratic project in Nigeria. Tunde has talked about separation of powers, but the rulings of courts are expected to be respected, to be obeyed. The constitutional provisions are also expected to be upheld by persons who have sworn on oath to respect the Constitution. So what you'll find from the direction of the governors is just terrible criminality, desperation, which cannot be explained under any framework whatsoever. Now, this issue came up when JUSON now decided to go on strike on April 6th. Now, let us note that these judicial workers, they are not going on strike because they want more salaries. They are going on strike on the basis of a principle that is upheld by the Constitution and also upheld by the courts. I think we should commend the Nigerian Bar Association under the leadership of Olumide Akpata for its proactiveness. When he was campaigning for that position, he said he will revive the NBA. And now we see members of the NBA now, on the basis of principle, standing up to the Nigerian state that is acting in a desperate manner, in a selfish manner, and in an unlawful and unconstitutional manner. And I think that Olumide Akpata and all the members of the NBA who are out there, deserve commendation. I hope that the Body of Ventures Association, this BSAN, will also join them. We would like them to speak up. We are also expecting that the National Union of Law Teachers, NALT, will also speak up, and they will not just take the safe line. Because what we're dealing with here are fundamental principles about the independence of the judiciary in Nigeria. Now, before now, the governors, they said they have objections to Executive Order number 10. Oh, do they also have objections to Section 81, subsection 3 of the Constitution, Section 121, subsection 3 of the Constitution? Do they also have objections to decided cases, stare decisis in the matter? Now, they say they are waiting for their daddy to return from England. Well, daddy has returned. He has spent a few days. Why has this matter not been taken up? A meeting was supposed to be held last Thursday between the Ministry of Labour and the Judicial Staff Union of Nigeria. Now, the Minister of Labour just postponed the meeting. Now, that meeting is supposed to hold today, Tuesday, at 3 p.m. We hope that reason will prevail and that the people who have been appointed or elected will understand that the rule of law is supreme and that it's very basic in, in a democracy. And that anything to the contrary is criminal conduct, unlawful conduct.
Thank you so much, both of you, for the stern words there, and I hope they do what is right. That's all on News Headline. We'll take a short break. Then when we return, we'll have Rhodes Adiri, Michael Wilson, Aaron Akerjala, Adesuwa Mora to give us updates on Africa, global business, COVID-19, and sporting activities across the globe. Stay with us. Well, welcome back to the morning show right here on the Rise News channel. We'll move on to Michael Wilson. Yeah, Michael. Good morning to you, Michael.
Good morning. Thanks very much indeed. Globally, then, sentiment still remains positive. More discussion, I have to say, about football and the European Super League than the big falls seen in Bitcoin and Ethereum yesterday. Global overview, not surprising, a bit of modest profit taking. I said that would probably happen this week. Markets in Asia have continued fairly soft. Big fall, though, in the Nikkei. It doesn't look as though it'll translate, though, necessarily into what's going to happen in Europe. Asia markets mixed. Japan down 2%. China keeps its benchmark rate unchanged. So China then, promising no hegemony, no dominance, pursuing it regardless of the level of its development. That's according to the president. He promoted China as a champion of multilateral trading system and globalization, and he's obviously made this made these promises as U.S. relations have come under a very particularly tough start really under Joe Biden. They were after a fair and equitable global governance. It's increasingly clashed with the United States, as you know, about trade and unfair trade practices and so on. The US has spoken out about issues ranging from the autonomy of Hong Kong to human rights in Xinjiang region and so on. And Beijing has accused Washington of meddling in its domestic affairs and so on and so on. But anyway, that's a bit of a mollification there from the president of China. China's also now backing Bitcoin, apparently, after a big crackdown on Bitcoin. It's now calling it an investment alternative. That sounds to me like a significant change of tone, maybe something to do with the value it's got. But then again, you know, very, very volatile, as we know. US recap then. US markets finished the day really on the back foot, quite honestly. May well have been caused by that tech stocks down, may have been caused by that collapse in Bitcoin over the weekend. First quarter earnings season got off to a good start earlier this last week. Financials up about 38%. We start today with Netflix after the bell, and big reports from Johnson & Johnson, Procter & Gamble, and Interactive Brokers and so on. All that coming up before the market actually opens. US leading banks are now seeing digital currency, not Bitcoin, digital currency, as the next big disruptor. Wall Street reviews central banks' digital currencies as really following on from countries like China and the Bahamas, really. They've instituted these digital currencies. US Federal Reserve is taking a very cautious approach. Overall, then, Dow Jones up to 65 points as far as futures are concerned. S&P 500's up about 0.01%. Let's talk about the UK. And Britcoin, it's being called now. Bank of England is considering a central bank, and it's not Bitcoin. This is not Bitcoin. It's Britcoin is what I'm talking about. They're calling it Britcoin. It's a digital currency which is going to be looked at by the Treasury and the Bank of England. It could, for example, stimulate. I do say it's not Bitcoin. It is Britcoin. Let's be absolutely clear about that. Not Bitcoin that you're seeing right now. There is a Bank of England task force which is actually looking at that. It could mean, for example, that payments are actually made straight into people's bank accounts without going to branches of banks and so on. And it could be that those payments of Britcoin, not Bitcoin, are actually going into people's pockets over a certain amount of time. So you could actually have quite targeted impact of this kind of currency. Britcoin, not Bitcoin. I do stress that. UK Johnson cancels India trip again. He cancelled his trip to India. Unfortunately, it may well affect the trade deal. I don't think it will, to be honest. I think we find if India was initially looking forward to that kind of trade deal, and it can be done online, then I think it probably will be. There are commercial complications with India, though. A lot of big companies, including Vodafone, owed a lot of money through having previous business arrangements with India. So all that's got to go. Now, what about the football thing? Well, we know that the proposals about the Super League, we were talking about it yesterday. Manchester United shares soared on that, but a big backlash from not least of which Prince William, also the Prime Minister, and so on. It threatens to block it. Chelsea Real could be banned from the Champions League as immediately as this week. And the Prime Minister is going to chair a meeting with senior football officials and fans representatives and so on. Real Madrid, it's like I was saying yesterday, you know, these people, they're worried about the money. They're worried about not getting the support. And so they feel as though and Super League will start to inflate their salaries once again. How crazy is that? UK HSBC executives forced to hot desk. The key here is the executives being forced to do something that they don't necessarily want to do. So this is increasing and extending this kind of hybrid model for employment. And I mean, working from home and a few days in the office. But the thing that's got the headlines here is executives being forced to hot desk. Junior people like me, when I was at work, we used to hot desk because we were told to do it. But executives losing their offices, I think there'll be a lot of problems about that, quite honestly. UK unemployment, figures just out, rate down to 4.9%, down from 5%. Employment still fairly subdued. It may be that the exit from the lockdown actually helps that, and we'll see. But the worst thing about this is, of course, it's basically hitting young people. Commodities, I won't give you any details about the oil price, just to say that the COVID glut may be over. There's a feeling now that with this feeling of recovering economies, yes, I know there are blips about COVID and the rest of it, it could actually boost the price quite a lot. We've reached a kind of inflection point as far as oil is concerned. I know we'll have to wait for the next OPEC and OPEC plus meetings next month, but it's not that far away. Generally speaking, oil price looks relatively positive. That's your global view.
Right, Michael. Okay. Dr. Bati?
You want to go ahead?
Oh, yeah, you go ahead, sir.
Okay. I don't know how much time we have with you, but quickly, a number of questions. With regard to the Super League, the shares of Juventus and Manchester United rose yesterday after the announcement and their insistence on participation on the Super League. What is the connection here, considering the fact that the reaction from the fans have been overwhelmingly negative towards the idea of the Super League? Now, Bank of England and the Treasury, they've set up a task force to look into digital currency, what they call the central bank digital currency, CBDC. Now, how quickly, how early are we likely to find out? And does this have anything to do with competition with China? Because China is far ahead in terms of rolling out digital currency. They started experimenting with 10 districts. They've extended that over the weekend, particularly on Sunday. And now we have England saying that they are going the same route and they want to be in the forefront of financial innovation. Is this a case of imitation or self-protectionism? I don't know what you think about that. And then on a lighter note, I see Tesco has been fined by a magistrate court with over £7.5 million for issues relating to out-of-date food items that occurred in 2016, 2017 over in 3 stores, and an additional £95,000 for litigation fees. Well, for me, living in Nigeria here, where out-of-date items are sold on a daily basis and there is no protection, I just think, well, these people in England, they seem to be over-pampered. Perhaps I'm comparing apples and oranges. Over to you, Michael.
Out-of-date items, I mean, what does out-of-date actually mean? I know that there are regulations about this. I've looked at things, I don't know about you. Do you go into your pantry and see stuff that you bought many, many years ago? I mean, one of my neighbours has got so much stuff in her pantry, it's still in previous currencies, a decimal, quite honest. I think she must have bought them after the Second World War. Joking apart, I feel as though, yeah, there are regulations about this kind of thing. We used to have a shop in our village that used to sell out-of-date stuff relatively cheap because it'll be a few days out of date. Who cares about that? I think the sniff test tends to do it, Doctor, don't you? As far as the Britcoin is concerned, yes, I think that a lot of central banks, including, I mean, the Fed's looking at this. We know that China's, as you say, is quite well advanced down this. The important thing about it is, and it will have here, there'll be lots of discussion about it because clearly banks are very highly regulated, particularly after the last financial crisis. So whatever happens, it will be difficult to bypass banks, bypass the banking system to get to currency. But what it does do, quite an interesting suggestion, for example, the Fed handing out its stimulus checks, last month, it could have actually directed that money specifically into people's accounts. And it could have also, you could be looking at a currency that you inject into people's account, but there's a time limit on it. So if you don't use it by a certain time, or it could be restricted to certain kinds of goods. Now, what that says to me is that a digital currency is kind of controlling the way the economy's run. Some politicians have done this in the past by doing it through fiscal means, i.e. by taxation. What you could be seeing here is that it's done through monetary means, which is actually putting currency into people's pockets for a specific purpose, for a specific time. I think it'll be a long time before this happens. It's nothing to do with Bitcoin. It's nothing to do with cryptocurrencies. This is to do with digital currencies. And this is the most important thing. The end of cash, doubt it very much indeed. I think there are too many economies that actually quite like cash, including many, many countries in Europe as well. Whether you think that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. I think there's a lot of power in cash, quite honestly, but I think there's a lot of discussion which will actually happen here. As far as the football's concerned, I would say this. I said it yesterday, you follow the money. The problem is, I saw a poster yesterday saying, founded in poverty, taken prisoner by the rich. That's what football started, as you know, in this country, played by very poor people and big working class crowds before the First World War and in the interwar years between the First and the Second. It was only the advent of television that forced those wages up. And I think that this probably is going to force higher wages into a smaller group of people. I think a lot of fans will object to that. Certainly the Prime Minister does.
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally in support of what you said, Michael, and I'm not surprised that all of them are objecting to it, but they'll come around. You know, Otto Schopenhauer once said every great idea is first refused, and it gets to the point that it's an orthodox idea. JP Morgan is putting $3.5 billion on the ground for that football project. They're saying any team that signs up, they can share from the big pot of $3.5 billion. That's one I'd like you to react to. A bank is on this. And secondly, Michael, is America trying to ramp up its semiconductor race? Because I see now that Masayoshi Son has sold ARM, the company he bought a couple of years ago under SoftBank, to NVIDIA, the American chip maker. So might this just be a way of ramping up things? But, you know, you're having British anti-competition fight against this.
Yeah, on ARM and NVIDIA, I'd hold your horses on that one, because there's a lot of opposition here to ARM being bought by NVIDIA, because they're seeing ARM as being a sort of a political, but also a strategic asset as well. So I'd hang on about that. But as far as semiconductors are concerned, yes, everybody wants to insure them right now, because they want to protect their own supply chains from geopolitical movements and so on. So that's what's going on there. As far as football's concerned, once again, I would say to you that, yes, I get the business about JP Morgan being involved, but this is not just about money. This is about fans as well. This is still a working person's game in this country. It's not like it is in the United States. It's not big business. And you'll find a lot of the business people who are involved in it right now could not run a proper company if you actually paid them to do so. So I think that JP Morgan may be sticking money into this. Well, good for them. I think there's a long, long way to go before anything like a Super League actually happens.
I wanted to talk about the hot desking. So people can no longer aspire to the cushy corner office, it seems. That's like seemingly out of fashion at the moment. Do you think this is here to stay? And also HSBC, is there some kind of writing we need to be reading on the wall? Because they're also moving some executive positions to Hong Kong. What are your thoughts on that? And about Tesco, what really gave me pause was 17 days on the shelf beyond the use-by date. It wasn't just a day or two, that's gross. And then children's meals were affected. Nobody wants to feed their children, moldy food.
No, that's right. No, I think it's a long way to go. I think Tesco will have to face up to that somehow. As far as hot desking's concerned, again, moving away from the sort of top executive thing, I think that's fine. I don't mind those office doors. Most people where I used to work used to have their office doors actually open. But I'm thinking that we've talked about this before, haven't we? If you don't have an office existence and you don't somehow get there, in other words, if you're being encouraged to work from home permanently, then that's what actually is going to happen. You will be working from home permanently, and I think you lack the experience of an office. That's what all this is about. Office politics, we don't like them too much. You remember HSBC was one of those companies where the employees came forward with a virtual water cooler, didn't they? To carry on gossip around them. I think there's a long way to go before we get to hybrid working being satisfactory. Personally, I valued the experience of an office, and I still would.
I do too.
Thank you so much for your time, Michael, today. Really appreciate you. Our dependable Rod Soduri is here to give us Africa Business Update. Rod, over to you, my friend.
Good morning, Tundu. Good morning, Doctor. We kick things off with the Finance Minister, Zainab Ahmed. She was on state television yesterday, and she said it was the states that actually wanted the federal government to borrow up to 50 billion naira in order to top up their March FAC allocation. Let's take a listen to what she said.
Very difficult times. And I can explain to you how difficult it is, not just for the federal government, but also for the states. We see increasing reductions in our FAC revenues. FAC revenues are the revenues that we pull together every month, revenues that are collected for both oil and as well as non-oil sectors, collection efforts of NMPC, FIRS, Customs, and several revenue collecting agencies. So FAC reduces, and whenever FAC reduces, it's a very difficult situation for us. So in the past 1 year, we have tried to fall back on some specific accounts that are meant to be savings, that when you have such a situation, you fall back on and you pull some resources and arguments. So we take funds based on Mr. President's approval, either from excess crude or stabilization account, or in some cases, the President even approved for us to take funds from NLNG dividend. In the month of just the last month, in the month of March, we had a shortfall of FAC that is almost about 50 billion. And we didn't have enough accrued in any of those accounts other than some 8.5 billion that we took from excess from exchange rate differential account. So we added that and we ended up with a FAC of 605 billion. An average FAC that is healthy for us is 650 billion naira. So it means we had a shortfall of about 50 billion. The states, to be honest, wanted us to go borrow from the central bank to augment FAC. So we had a FAC that ran through 3 days because we couldn't agree, but we resisted doing that. So we didn't borrow from the central bank. We insisted that the FAC should be shared as is. When we had buffers, we borrowed to augment it, but we didn't. So we just thought everybody should go back and scale back and rearrange how they managed their affairs to be able to live within what we had. So it was very surprising for us when we had a sitting governor saying that CBN had printed money for FAC. That was very, very unfortunate because it is not true. The FAC was 605 billion. The FAC information is published, so you can see the general revenue contributed by each of the agencies. That is what we shared. The states will have wanted us to borrow and augment, but we didn't do that. And we will make sure that we don't have to do that, because it's time that all of us now need to just go back and do more. A lot of the states are trying to do more in terms of augmenting increasing the performance of the internally generated revenue, but it's difficult to do that at a time when growth is very, very slow. So we do understand that. And going forward, what we have been doing from 2019 to date in the Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning is a plan that we have put in place to grow revenue. It's very difficult times. And I can explain to you how difficult it is, not just for the federal government, but also
So that's the Minister of Finance. Now, in addition, she's also going to be headlining a dialogue in Abuja at about 10 a.m. I think we're going to be covering that. That's going to be on school safety, and that's financing schools and keeping them safe. It's going to involve the Governors Forum, the defense representatives, and essentially talking about how insecurity in Nigeria is costing Nigeria's education sector with respect to the amount of students that are out of school, the amount of kidnappings that they are facing. There's some report that's being put out there, according to some international agency, I don't remember what that, about for a student that's out of school for about 5 months can cost a government or a country trillions in outputs in the future. So we'll be looking forward to that. What they say the outcome of this dialogue is that they're supposed to have some paper that they're going to put together and follow, almost like the Oransayan reports. I mean, I hope something comes of it, but we can see how insecurity is affecting not only inflation, not only food supplies, but also the education sector. So she's going to be headlining that at the Transcorp Hotel at 10 a.m. Later today. We'll be covering that. Finally, in Zimbabwe, they're resuming the hunting of elephants. They're saying they're going to allow foreign tourists to shoot about 500 elephants, up to almost $70,000 per elephant. And they're saying they need this because their revenue at their parks has fallen. Zimbabwe back in 2018, about 2.5 million tourists generated about $1 billion for Zimbabwe. So they're saying that they need the money. And I think Zimbabwe and neighboring Botswana have the highest populations of elephants on the African continent. So according to them, they can afford to do this. 4 or 5 years ago, they exported about 100 elephants to China. So They need the money, and they're saying they're going to resume allowing control. This is going to be controlled, shooting elephants for up to 70,000 so they can augment. Everybody's augmenting revenue. Nobody has money on the African continent. And that's our update.
I mean, that should have come with a trigger warning, Rotus, I have to tell you, because I like elephants more than I do most people.
Yes,
that was extremely distressing.
I forgot about that. Your favorite animal.
Yes, and this has really hurt my feelings.
I mean,
Rotus.
I'm sorry.
But I haven't finished.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry.
So you'll recall the Trump administration, I was completely disgusted, lifted the ban on importing, trophies when people come to Africa and kill our wildlife. And I thought that was horrendous. That was in 2017. But really, the rationale behind it happened in Botswana first. They were the first to legalize the hunting of elephants, because their rationale is that when you attach value to the elephants, it protects them. So that the landowners will protect them, ferociously from poachers who will just come in, kill them, and make off with the money. There's something in it for them, some kind of incentive for them. And it just really sickens me how human beings, the human mind, is just so base and obsessed with money. Hence my preference for elephants.
I also don't get it either. I don't get why they like this. It's a trophy thing. I don't know. It's very
disgusting.
I mean, it's quite sad, and Antonio, I share your pain.
Thank you,
it's very, very painful. Elephants are the most intelligent animal in the world. They understand the emotions of people, and they are treasures to Africa. Why kill them because of corruption? Because you can't fix your economy. Look at Zimbabwe. Mnangagwa is stealing himself blind. The country is ripped in corruption. You can't raise money for your country with all the diamonds and the merengue mines you have. And the next thing, you have to kill the poor elephants for your ineptitude.
There were 10 million elephants in the world. Now there are only 350,000.
Can you imagine? Because you can't run your economy because you're so corrupt.
Okay, very quickly, I would like to respond to Zainab Ahmed, the Minister of Finance. I think it's good that today they are holding a session on the Safe Schools Initiative, which was introduced in Nigeria in 2014, shortly after the abduction of the Chibok girls from government secondary school Chibok. And that had the involvement of the United Nations through the participation of former Prime Minister of the UK, Gordon Brown, who was UN Global Envoy on the safety of schools worldwide. Now, it's good to see Nigeria returning to it, particularly at a time when in 5 states of the North, in the last 1 month, 618 schools have been shut down. And we have a situation whereby many young people say they don't want to go back to school out of the fear that they will be kidnapped and that their parents will be asked to pay ransom. And government will tell them that they do not negotiate with bandits, placing both parents and the children in a very difficult situation. I think all of us should be interested in the outcome of that dialogue. And I hope that it's not only the Minister of Finance that will be involved in that conversation. I did not hear you mentioning that the Ministry of Education will be involved and that other stakeholders will be involved in that conversation. Because making our schools safe is about the future of Nigeria. It's about the future of the youthful population of Nigeria. A country that has a youth bulge cannot place the future of its young people at risk. And I hope that, President Buhari, taking personal responsibility, will focus on this further. Now, on the question of quantitative easing, I'm not too sure that both the Ministry of Finance and the CBN are getting the conversation ignited, catalyzed by the governor of Edo State. This is not about personalities. Why are they going back and forth, going around? What exactly are they saying? Why is it so difficult in the English language to just say, oh, we did not do quantitative easing. We did not do ways and means. Very simple English. All that narrative about by Zainab Ahmed, I don't understand it. Just say, no, we didn't do it. Or we did it. It's not a crime to apply ways and means. Countries do it. The question we are raising here is that, okay, if you apply ways and means, what did you do with it? Is it to fund productivity, to re-energize, reflate the economy, or to fund conspicuous consumption? One other dimension of the issue that has come up is the state governors now saying that something related to the Paris debt that there is a certain Dr. Edwards who is supposed to, collect some money and all that. We will need more clarity in that regard. And the Minister of Finance should come forward. I understand that Femi Falana SAN has gone to court on that particular issue. What exactly is involved? Because Nigerians have the right to know. We're talking in the information process about the right to know and the need to know. Here, with regard to quantitative easing, we're dealing with the right to know. But the minister is right, however, that the governors need to look inwards. Our states must become centers of productivity rather than cap-in-hand centers of consumption. That, I think, is the point.
All right. Thank you so much, Rotus. We'll take a quick break. When we'll come back, we'll talk to Adesua. We'll be right back after the break. All right, welcome back. Still the morning show right here on the Rise News channel. We're going to go straight to Adesua Moro now to give us updates on COVID-19. Adesua, great to have you. Morning.
Good morning, Rufai. Thank you. Good morning, Tundu, and good morning, Dr. Bati. Well, in the last 24 hours, over 700,000 coronavirus cases have been recorded globally, with at least 9,000 deaths, bringing the global total, according to the Johns Hopkins University tally, to what you have on your screen currently. Now, here in Nigeria, 70 new infections were recorded in 5 states. The largest infections came in from Lagos State, while Bauchi State saw the least number of infections. And a look at the vaccination rollout in Nigeria shows that 5,100 people received their first jab of the coronavirus vaccine yesterday across the country. At the moment, vaccination is still ongoing in those states that commenced their rollout late and are yet to reach their percentage target for the first phase of this rollout. Now, away from Nigeria, after more than a month of delay, the Democratic Republic of Congo began vaccinating priority groups yesterday. Now, the country had postponed its rollout after several European countries suspended the use of the AstraZeneca vaccine due to concerns about the vaccine safety. You would recall the blood clot debacle. The health minister, Eteni Longondo, was among the first to be vaccinated in Kinshasa. However, the delayed rollout in the DRC may just be the least of its problems. And this is because the vaccines are due to expire in June. There are concerns that the country may not be able to administer the over 1 million doses by then and may be reconsidering re-exporting it, actually. DRC Congo was one of the first African countries to receive vaccines through the COVAX facility, and they've delayed since March. Now to India, where officials have announced a week-long lockdown in its capital, Delhi. Officials say that this is to prevent a situation where people are dying in the streets. Now, this week-long lockdown, we see a curfew come into place as well as private establishments as well. Delhi reported over 25,000 cases and 161 deaths in the past 24 hours. Meanwhile, the country has announced that it will expand those who are to receive the vaccination program from the 1st of May. All adults over the age of 18 will now be entitled to a vaccine, but it is unclear if India has the supply required to meet such demand. And it also comes on a day where British Prime Minister Boris Johnson called off a trip to New Delhi. He described it as a sensible thing to do, and just as he was cancelling that trip, Health Secretary Matt Hancock was announcing that India will be added to England's travel red list from 4 a.m. on Friday. Finally, in about a year from now, guys, if everything goes as planned, the world may have a better understanding of how the coronavirus is able to infect an individual a second time and how the immune system responds. This is because the University of Oxford has launched a study where 64 healthy participants aged 18 to 30 who have previously had COVID-19 are now deliberately reinfected with the coronavirus. The experts behind this study, which is beginning this month, say the ultimate aim here is to design better treatments and vaccines. That's good news for science.
Yeah, that's very good news. And I'm really excited about that study. It is sort of like a protected study. It's in a protected environment. They'll be exposed to COVID, and they'll be able to see if they will be reinfected, and we're going to get the summation of that study. But where we stand today, and from the stories you've reeled out, this was a good job, I must say, you do every time. is the fact that the world needs to upscale its logistics. Because in the fight against COVID-19, it's not just the vaccine that'll do it. It's the logistics behind the distribution of the vaccine, from vial to arm. That's a big last-mile challenge. Currently, as we speak in the world today, a couple of days ago, we hit the 1 billion vaccine mark in production. We've produced 1 billion vaccines. With ramping up of production, we should be able to do 2 billion by May 27th or thereabout. But there's a stall. The stall is because there are 37 ingredients required for production of vaccines that Americans need to release of some sort, with intellectual property like we've been talking about, to be able to get production up and going. So the challenge is, apart from that one we have produced, how can we ensure that the 1 billion we have produced get into arms? The big problem is it's not getting into arms. Why? Logistics.
So this brings me to the point about South Sudan. Had you finished?
No, I've not finished, but make the point. Okay. Go ahead, make the point.
They're destroying 60,000 vaccines because by the time they arrived on their shores, it only had a 14-day shelf life, and there just wasn't enough time. So this is to, buttress that point.
So that's the point we are making. How can this get into the arms? And you talked about India. India has shot themselves in the foot. Narendra Modi should be blamed. Why? He wants to win elections. 2, he had the Hindus, get away with their religious ceremony. You know what that has done? India has become the new epicenter. 250,000 cases. It's a bazaar of coronavirus. You see why we say leadership matters? Because of Narendra Modi's consolidation of the BJP party, and to be able to placate the Hindus, he's put the Indian people in jeopardy. And you know what that will do? It will be a shortfall. Because if India, in states like Uttar Pradesh and some other parts of India, are recording 250,000 cases now per day, when they create the vaccine at the Serum Center, which is starved of resource now, which is starved of ingredients, they will look at their own people first and not look this way.
Well, Boris Johnson is also being accused of playing politics because he's just announced that India is now on that list, hasn't he? And he's been accused of, dragging his feet while waiting to see if he can go and negotiate trade deals, which are also important post-Brexit. But he's been accused of putting that ahead of the lives of his own people.
Okay, let me start with India. Now, in mid-February, India was recording 11,000 cases per day. And, Narendra Modi was even described as the vaccine guru in terms of the success. But I think that got into the head of Narendra Modi and his officials. They opened up the country. There was the Pitchers Festival that you talked about. Before then, there was a cricket event between India and England, which was attended by about 130,000 people. India relaxed. And I think that there are lessons that can be learned from the example of India, a country that did very well with the biggest immunization program in the world, but which lost it. As a result, perhaps, of hyper-nationalism, official arrogance, bureaucratic incompetence.
Yes.
All of that added together has now brought India to a place whereby on Sunday, they had over 200,000 cases of infection per day. And Delhi has now been shut down for the next 1 week because it has very high rate. The state of Massachusetts, I hope the pronunciation is correct, but Mumbai is the capital there. They also have the same problem. So what it means, what other countries have to learn from this is that, look, if you must not drop the ball with regard to COVID-19 because not enough is known already about the particular matter. But, Narendra Modi, as a politician, yes, he plays politics, but there's also a lot with regard to incompetence, with regard to hyper-nationalism, and with the way India has gone. I would not be surprised if tomorrow, India shuts down completely. As for Prime Minister Boris Johnson of the United Kingdom, he was scheduled to visit India in January. That was postponed. Now he was scheduled again to visit on April 26. Now he has also shelved that. Well, can you blame him? Self-preservation, they say, is the first law. Now, as for the United Kingdom, the challenge trials, that's what it is called. What they're trying to do, carry out research and see whether indeed, if you have taken the vaccine before, you can be reinfected. What is the level of your immunity? I think scientists are continually pushing the frontier, and I think it's something that should be encouraged. DRC was supposed to roll out its immunization program on March 15, but because of the issues with AstraZeneca, they moved it forward. They've started 50 million population, 1.7 million doses from AstraZeneca, maybe within the short time frame that they have. If they learn from the examples of the UK and Israel, perhaps they'll be able to immunize quickly, and they will not have to, abandon those doses. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adeswa.
Thank you so much, Adeswa.